Hi guys, Wanderers here, back again for another video on the channel. In this one today then, we will be looking at the latest odds on the favourites to get relegated from the Sky Bet Championship this season. We will be doing a promotion one in the next couple of days as well, but I just thought it'd be quite exciting to look at the Sky Bet odds on the favourites to get relegated and see where Swansea City rank amongst the teams who could potentially go down this season. Now, of course, the betting odds are a pinch of salt, but usually they are quite accurate. So let's get into it. So in 24th, the team which are predicted to finish there with relegation odds are Rotherham United with 15-8. I think it's just very lazy to label Rotherham, especially rock bottom. Now, Rotherham had a fantastic season last season under Matt Taylor. Of course, they did lose the old manager, Paul Warne, to Derby County, and Taylor came in, steadied the ship, got them playing some decent football, and in the end survived pretty comfortably. Now, I think it's very lazy just to say, Rotherham are going to go down just because they're a bit of a yo-yo club over the last couple of years, but I really feel like this season is where Rotherham can potentially push on, finish 12th or higher. I just think it's a bit lazy. I can't see Rotherham going down, to be honest. Maybe it depends really, but for them to finish bottom, I think is very lazy. They had a very good season last season, well invested as well in the summer, and they got a great manager. So, yeah, Rotherham are favourites to go down. I think that's very harsh. 23rd then, Plymouth Argyle, 15-8. Same odds as Rotherham United, of course. Plymouth, again, a team who won League One last season, but are probably the least favourites to do as well as Sheffield Wednesday, who obviously got promoted for the playoffs, and, of course, Ipswich Town, who finished second. Now, Plymouth probably have the least money out of the three. But one thing they do have is home park. Now, home park, of course, is Plymouth Argyle Stadium. It's a fortress for them. Last season was a huge reason why they got promoted from League One. And Steven Schumacher's a great manager. Already been linked with moves away with Swansea. I think he got linked to West Brom as well. Well, Carlos Corberán was being linked with Leeds United. Fantastic manager. Plymouth, okay, you could say they got a lack of championship experience. But, sometimes you don't have to sign too many players when you're getting promoted because that squad unison is so important. 22nd then, Huddersfield Town, odds of 7-2. Now, I can understand why Huddersfield have been put in the bottom three, to be honest. Now, Neil Warnock is staying this season. Will he last the season? I don't think so. Huddersfield, of course, had a shocking first half of last season. They had some really poor managerial appointments. In came Neil Warnock, steadied the ship, had one or two bad results now and there. Remember when they lost 4-0 at home to Coventry, and sometimes they just very poor. But in the end, Warnock steadied the ship, got them safety, and I was truly expecting Huddersfield to move on from Warnock. Obviously, they had a takeover and just, try and build for the future. But I have decided to stick with Warnock, which I guess is safety first, really. To get safety and then move on for the future. But I still think that Huddersfield squad needs massive improvement. You look at their strikers, Danny Wojo and Rhodes. These are strikers who have had their the best days are gone, essentially. They need a lot more youth players into their team. Now, Warnock is not that type of manager. I've seen them already be linked with players like Junior Hoylett now. I just don't think that's what Huddersfield need. So, yeah, I don't know about this one. 21st then, Birmingham have 7-2 odds of getting relegated this season. Now, shame with Birmingham, they've got so much potential, big stadium, good upcoming manager in John Eustace, but it just never seems to work with them. Of course, they have had quite a big clear out this summer. Players like George Friend and Troy Deeney leaving the club. They do still have some experienced players like Lucas Jukovic, John Ruddy and stuff like that. But as you seen with last season, they tried blending a few youth players in who they did sign, Taif Chong and Hannibal as well from Manchester United. So I do like the way John Eustace is trying to get a lot more youth players into Birmingham. And I think Birmingham could have a decent season. You have QPR, odds of 4-1 to go down. QPR last season, second half of last season, my word, they had to be one of the worst runs of any team in English football. The amount of losses they went on is incredible. From where they were in October, top of the league under Mick Beale, to relegation zone in March was simply incredible. But Gareth Ainsworth, in the end, just about got them safety. Now, look at that QPR team. I don't think it's suited to, the long ball, the target man, Lyndon Dykes. They've got some very good creative players in Elias Chair, Chris Willock. But they have already sold Rob Dickey for around £1 million, which is a huge loss, really. He's worth a lot more than that. So yeah, QPR, I can understand why they're this far favourites for going down, because the squad's not suited to Gareth Ainsworth's football. They've already lost one of their star players this summer to a fellow championship team in Bristol City, so we'll be interested to see what happens with Gareth Ainsworth this season. 19th, Sheffield Wednesday, odds of 5-1. Now, Sheffield Wednesday obviously got promoted from League One in remarkable fashion. 4-0 down in the first leg against Peterborough United, to come back in the next leg to win 5-1, go to penalties and win. It's simply remarkable. They did the hard job, got to the playoff final. Barnsley were down to 10 men, still made it very tough for themselves. Scored the 123rd minute. Third minute of stoppage time in extra time with Josh Windass, getting them brought to the championship. A lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans getting a lot of optimism for the season. We're going to build on, hopefully get mid-table and see what happens. Obviously trying to get to the playoffs like they did under Carlos Carvajal a few years ago. And bang, Darren Moore leaves the club, and the manager and the chairman, the owner, comes out and says, we have to get playoffs minimum. How do you expect to get playoffs minimum when you haven't got a manager? It's simply remarkable. Now, the reason Darren Moore left is potentially the lack of funding in the window, so doesn't want to enhance his reputation with Sheffield Wednesday fans, which I totally understand. Look, he's done the hard job. At the end of the day, if he doesn't think he's going to get backed, he's got every right in the world to go, essentially. We'll be interested to see where Darren Moore goes next. But Sheffield Wednesday, they've got to get a manager, and quickly. They need players. They have a very small squad there, and most of the players they have there are injury prone at best. Of course, Sheffield Wednesday will use Hillsborough as a home form, just like what Sunderland did last season. But Sunderland's home form last season wasn't great. But in terms of League One, their home form was essential to them getting promoted. Same with Sheffield Wednesday, really. So yeah, Sheffield Wednesday are favourites to go down, and I can understand why. 18th, Cardiff City, 5-1. Cardiff are a team which will interest me this summer. They've appointed a foreign manager, which is the first time in a couple of years where they've had a lot of boring old English managers. Mick McCarthy, Steve Morrison, Neil Harris, goes on. Neil Warnock, not boring, but you get what I mean. They've gone down the traditional English route. So very interesting that Cardiff have gone down the foreign route, a bit like Hull with the Turkish manager, which I had before. Of course, Cardiff aren't allowed to sign players for a fee this summer. They weren't allowed to sign it in January either, but they have got out of that situation. So if Cardiff are in a situation where they're not totally gone in January, they will be able to bring players in, which will help them survive this season. So it will be interesting. They do have a few great players on paper. Callum Robinson, when he was fit last season, was a big threat. Of course, they have lost a lot of good loan players. Cedric Keeper has gone back to West Bromwich Albion. That's a huge loss. He was very important for them last season. Obviously, they've lost the big striker as well. Can't remember his name to my mind, but he scored in South Wales Derby and was a main reason why he stayed last season. Cardiff stayed up last season. Shea Ojo's a player which is frustrating at times, can be unplayable, but at times just lazy. So they've got a lot of those type of players, Cardiff, where they've got the potential to be good, but they just don't show it enough. Same with Swansea with Olivier Encham, really. But yeah, with Cardiff, I don't think they're going to go down this season. I can understand why Sky Bet have got them 18th in the table, but yeah, I think they'll be alright. 17th, Bristol City, 5-1. With Bristol City, it's an interesting one. Of course, we've made some good business already. Rob Dickie coming in. Nigel Pearson, look, he's done a pretty decent job there. The state of financial play they were in was a bit poor, wasn't it? But he's managed to lower the wage buck. Obviously, a few seasons ago, you had Andres Weidman, one of the best goal scorers of the championship season, which was remarkable. The problem with Bristol City is they go on a winning run, they go on a losing run. There's no real consistency between them. If they just found that little bit of consistency, I think they could try and get to the top 10. But with Bristol City, look, they're not going to go down, they're not going to go up. They're basically Preston. But with Bristol City, they just need to be a bit more consistent and they can have a better season. 16th, Hull, 13-2. Now, I think this is very low for Hull. Hull will be financially backed in the window. Liam Rossini is a very good upcoming manager, and they will sign players this summer, Hull. They've obviously got Oscar Estupinan, who is proven last season that he is capable of scoring a lot of goals. They've got a decent squad there. Of course, they need a few more improvements to really push on to get that top 10 finish, but I don't think Hull will be anywhere near the relegation zone, if I'm honest. 15th, Preston North End, odds of 13-2 to get relegated. Again, I think it's a little bit low for Preston. Had a good season last season, was flirting with the playoffs, but just fell off towards the end. Just a lack of ability to score goals really killed them off in the end. Now with Preston, they're not the most financially backed team in the world. They do some smart business at times. You know, Freddie Woodman last season was a fantastic bit of business. He has proven out to be a great signing for Preston. Alvaro Fernandez on loan was brilliant. Obviously, a few seasons ago they had Sepp van der Berg, who was brilliant as well. So they always do seem to get these loans from big clubs who often prove to be outstanding. Now, apparently, you know, they've got this Liverpool right back, Calvin Ramsey, I think his name is. He'll be a very good option for them this season with the absence of Fernandez, who's going back. So yeah, Preston, I think they'll have a decent season. Question is, can they get into the playoffs this season under Ryan Lowe? Will be interesting. 14th, we've got my club, Swansea City, of odds of 8-1 to go down. Now, Swansea, last season, towards the end of last season, February onwards, was looking a little bit shaky in terms of could we potentially going down to the drop. I remember there was times where we were only 7-8 points clear with about 10 games to go, so was a little bit nervy in the end, but overall survived pretty comfortably in the end and nearly remarkably gone to the playoffs, which would have just been one of the best stories of Championship history, really, where we were to nearly going up. But Swansea new manager in charge, Michael Duff now. Of course, we've appointed some new board members, a new chairman and a new sporting director who will work alongside Josh and Marsh, who will try and get some transfers in. Of course, there is a lot of players who potentially could leave this summer, which will impact where we will finish. Matt Grimes, Joel Pro, both wanted by Southampton under Russell Martin. But I'm going to sound biased, but realistically, there's at least 3 worse teams than Swansea right now. We're financially okay. We're not, you know, in much debt or anything like that. So, you know, we don't have to worry about potential point deductions like a lot of teams do in the Championship. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It's a little bit of an unpredictable season with Swansea, but I don't think we're going to be flirting with relegation, which is the main thing. 13th, Blackburn, 11-1. Now, Blackburn, a team which last season, how they didn't get playoffs, I'll never know. They were literally in there for all of the season and just bottled it. Ben Burton Diaz has now officially left the club. He is going abroad to Spain, I think. Obviously, Bradley Dack has left the club on a free transfer. Obviously, his contract ran out, so he'll be looking for a new club. Bit of an end of an era for Blackburn, really. Ben Burton Diaz, Bradley Dack, 2 important players for them. Both had their problems with injuries, especially Bradley Dack. You know, a few seasons ago, he was unbelievable. But, you know, the cruciate ligament injuries has literally killed him off. And Ben Burton Diaz, so much reliability on him, you know, he couldn't do it by himself. We do have some good young players. Tyrese Dolan, I'm a big fan of. I like Pickering as well. I think he's a decent player. Obviously, they got some steady players as well. Daniel Ayala. Obviously, they are being linked to a move away. Lewis Travers being linked to Millwall. I think that'd be really poor business if they did let him leave. He's a big player in that midfield. So Blackburn, yeah, 13th I think would be a fair valuation for them, where with the players they've lost anyway. 12th then, bang in the middle with 24 teams. We've got Millwall, 12-1. Now, Millwall, last season, I thought had a very good season, of course. A team similar to Blackburn, where they were in the playoffs the majority of the season and just flew off towards the end. Ziyang Fleming last season was a baller. He was ridiculously good. Took a couple of months for him to settle down, get used to the English second division, get used to the playing styles of teams he will be up against, but what a player he was. Just a shame they didn't have Jed Wallace as well. Now with Millwall, they had Tom Bradshaw, who's got a lot of goals last season. Will he be able to do it again this season? I'm a little bit unsure. The goalkeeper situation does worry me. I'm not a huge fan of George Long. I think Bartosz Bilakowski's a lot better. I know he's approaching his 36, 37 years of age now, Bilakowski, but you know, George Long is so unreliable. They've got very good defenders, Millwall. McNamara is a good player. Obviously, his contract's running down soon, so they'll have to tie him down. They've got players like Murray Wallace and, you know, players like that at the back as well. So, yeah, Millwall, no real threat of going down, which is the whole point of this video. I think Millwall are one of the most teams which will be nowhere near the drop zone. 11 favourites to go down, Coventry City. Now, I think this is a bit too high for Coventry. I think there is potential of them not having a great season. Now, Gyökeres is more than likely going to be leaving the club. Gustavo Heimer, of course, is being linked with a move away. Obviously, with them not getting to the Premier League after losing the playoff final in just harsh fashion on penalties, what a harsh way to lose a playoff final, heartbreaking. But with Coventry, you do often see, you've seen with Huddersfield and Swansea, where you get to a playoff final, you lose the playoff final, the next following season is a hard one. Huddersfield just about surviving, Swansea finishing very low in 15th after the playoff final. So I think Coventry are going to have one of those seasons. I don't think they're going to do as well as people think. I think they're going to have a bit of a drop-off, and wouldn't surprise me if they are between 18th and 24th next season. 10th then, Sunderland, 12-1. Now, a lot of expectation on Sunderland, as you'd expect, with being one of the biggest clubs in England and one of the best away followings and home followings in England and in Great Britain, essentially. Some of the attendances of the weekend last season was an absolute joke. I went to the stadium like in January, and I think there was about 42,000 people there just to watch the Swans win, which is always good to see. But yeah, Sunderland, I don't think they'll go down this season. Have a very, very good manager in Tony Mowbray, of course. Had some fantastic players last season, like Amad Diallo. We'll have to replace those sorts of players. Will be able to? I assume so. 9th, then we got Stoke, 14-1. Very high for Stoke, considering Stoke have finished between 14th and 16th for the last 5-6 seasons at Championship level. For them to be predicted the 9th favourites not to go down just doesn't seem right to me. Stoke have a lot of problems in terms of players on high wages. They have got rid of some of them, like Sam Clucas this summer, but they still have players like Dwight Gale, who are past their sell-by date. I don't know why Stoke don't go down this route of signing upcoming young players, like what they did with Liam Delap. 8th for West Brom, 16-1. Again, very high for West Brom not to go down this season. They're in a lot of financial trouble. Will have to sell a lot of players before they can buy this season. Could potentially even get point deductions. A lot of talks with their own losing a lot of money at the club. So with West Brom, they're one of the teams where I'm looking over the shoulder where they could potentially get a point deduction, and would be a shame to see West Brom not back in the Premier League soon, as they're a big club. Had some fantastic players over the years. Remember when they had Romelu Lukaku on loan? Obviously Ben Foster was a brilliant player for them. Gareth McCauley was brilliant. I think it was Jonas Olsson as well. I loved watching him at West Brom. He was terrific. Chris Bunt had one of the best left foots ever seen in the Premier League. So yeah, West Brom, no real threat of them going down this season, just a threat of not being able to get in the Premier League this season if they get some points deductions and don't replace the players who they will have to sell. 7th, then we got Watford, 16-1. I thought, first of all, this was the odds of them sacking Ishmael inside the first few games. Watford, of course, have another new manager, Vladimir Ishmael. I'm going to predict he's gone by October. I like Ishmael, I like Chris Wilder, I like these sorts of managers, but they just don't get enough time for Watford to turn around. I genuinely don't know how Watford fans support their team, because I just don't know. I don't know how you go through it. But Watford, yeah, it's mental, really. The amount of managers they change, they won't go down because they'll just change their manager if they're in any threat. But Watford, look, just come down from the Premier League 2 seasons ago. They'll be looking to return to the Premier League sooner rather than later. Parachute payments obviously will run out eventually. So yeah, be interested to see how they do. I don't think they'll be relegated, but Ishmael, when he was at West Brom, yeah, was not great, was he? So that doesn't favour Watford in any sense there. In 6th then, on to the playoffs. Now, the 6th team most likely not to get relegated is actually a newly promoted team, Ipswich Town, 20-1. How often do you see a team from League One get put this highly not to go down? Ipswich, of course, had a few teams in League One, absolutely pissed the league last season. Very unlucky not to win the league in total. I think they had one of the highest ever second points tallies in history of League One, and I think it was enough for like 10 of the last 15 League One seasons to actually win the league. So yeah, very unfortunate Ipswich didn't win the league last season, but they will be back this summer. Of course, as I did mention on my video a few days ago, Ellis Sims is linked to them, and I wouldn't put it past them to sign Ellis Sims. They've got Nathan Broadhead, who's a fantastic player. Yeah, Ipswich are just a great team. Don't think they'll go down this season. I just think they're a little bit too high, though, for this. There's a lot of teams below who I think should be a bit above Ipswich in terms of not going to go down. In 5th then, we got Ipswich East Anglia rivals Norwich City with odds of 25-1 not to go down this season. Yeah, I think Norwich will be alright. They'll be pushing towards the top end of the season. Of course, with David Wagner in charge of Norwich, I'm not sure if he's the right man to get Norwich back where they belong. But last season, a little bit of a tricky spell for Norwich. Obviously, coming down from the Premier League, expected to do a lot better than what they did. Didn't even finish in the playoffs, which is very rare for Norwich. We usually tend to see Norwich like a yo-yo club with Rotherham League One Championship. Norwich Premier League Championship didn't happen last season. Obviously, Rotherham didn't even go down last season, so it's a little bit of a weird one, both of those surviving. But yeah, Norwich won't go down, but in terms of the promotion, I'm not too sure. Fourth then, going up to the north east, we have Middlesbrough, 33-1 to go down this season. I think Middlesbrough will have a good season this season. Again, can't say they won't get relegated because last season they were near enough the relegation though until they changed manager to in West Brom. So these big clubs who you expect to do well sometimes don't do well, which is the whole point of making this video really, because I like seeing the odds. But yeah, Middlesbrough aren't guaranteed to go down or go up, but I think they'll be one of the best teams in the division under Michael Carrick. Players like Chuba Akpom excelled last season. Obviously, they've got that Australian geezer, I can't remember his name, but he had a really good season last season as well. It begins with Muck. He's scored against the Swans before, but I can't remember his name. But yeah, I think Middlesbrough will be good. So no surprise, the three favourites not to go down this season are all relegated clubs. Now, the third favourite not to go down is Southampton. So they're the most likely team of the Premier League side to get really likely to go down this season. They've got odds of 50-1 to go down. Of course, Russell Martin. They will be selling a lot of players this season. Now, we've seen with Sunderland before, they sold a lot of players when they went down and just went turmoil, really. So all of these teams, Leicester, Leeds, Southampton, all have the potential to do that, but I just think their squads are so good and they'll have so much money, they'll be okay in the end. The second least likely team to get relegated this season, Leicester, odds of 50-1. Still remarkable that Leicester in the Championship. A few years ago winning the FA Cup, a few years before that playing in the Champions League, winning the Premier League. A few years ago, before having players like Cambiasso in their team who used to play for Inter Milan, and it's mental, absolutely mental to see Leicester in the Championship. I generally think all three Premier League sides, Leicester have the potential to do the worst. They've got an unknown manager, only had one senior of a managerial role with Parma. Yes, he has worked under Pep Guardiola, but it's a big opportunity. He'll have to replace the players of the likes of Soyuncu, James Maddison, Harvey Barnes. Will he be able to get the best of Vardy, Iheanacho? There's a lot of Premier League proven players in here, but is their mentality good? We'll be interested to see how Leicester do this season. Now, the team who are least likely to get relegated this season, according to the betting odds, are Leeds United. I'm surprised. Leeds are the most highly rated not to get relegated. Odds of 50-1, have played in League One before and have struggled at the Championship before until Marcelo Bielsa came in. Very surprised that Leeds are favourites, I've got to be honest. Now, Leeds, out of Southampton and Leicester, probably have the worst squads out of the three, but probably will lose less of the players than Southampton and Leicester as well, if that makes sense. Obviously, still yet to appoint a new manager. Talks of Daniel Farke potentially going there as well. But yeah, with Leeds, 50-1 to win Leicester and Southampton in terms of odds. But with pre-season already underway, no manager, no new signings. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Thanks guys for watching. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe on the video. Those are the odds of each team's odds of getting relegated this season. So the three favourites of getting relegated this season are Rotherham United 15-8, Plymouth Argyle 15-8, and Huddersfield Town 7-2. And the three likely teams who are not going to get relegated this season are Southampton, Leicester, Leeds United, all on odds of 50-1. And the teams mid-table, you got like Coventry, Millwall, Blackburn, all odds of 11-1, 12-1. And Sunday are 8-1 to go down this season. So yeah, we're probably more likely to go down than go up. But under Michael Duff, who knows? So anyway, if you did enjoy this sort of video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. It did take a long time to edit and record and find out the information. So your support is greatly appreciated. Great to be doing videos, like I said. And yeah, a lot more Championship content is underway. If you want to see more Championship content like this, let me know. If you want to see more Swansea City videos, let me know as well. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Good luck to every single team in this division this season. It's going to be a great season. Proper Coca-Cola Championship vibes. But let me know what teams you bought down below and how do you think your season will go in the end. I will be doing a promotion odds in the next couple of days as well, so yeah, keep an eye out for that. Thanks guys, see you next time.